be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. Heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. For you are the one I praise. You are the one I praise. Sing it with me. Heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. Oh, heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. For you are the one I praise. You are the one I praise. Jeremiah 17:14 says, heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. For you are my praise. Nobody would doubt if Jesus touched you at this moment that you would be healed. You know, the same power is inherent in God's word. When his word touches you, it brings healing. His word will not return void, but it will accomplish the purpose for which it's sent. He sent his word and healed us. Let's sing it back to him and let his healing come as we sing it. Heal me, Lord. Heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. Oh, heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. For you are the one I praise. You are the one I praise. You are the one I praise.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Stronger Immunity, Healthier Community Health webinar. Now, I'm Anais Charles, and co-hosting with me tonight is Sanesis Simon. We will be your weekly hosts for this online webinar. Now, it is a privilege for us to be with you every week. As you know, the focus of this webinar is to have a stronger, healthier communities. This is why every webinar will be giving you tips and good information about how to maintain a healthy lifestyle.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Mrs. Simon, and my co-host is Anais Charles, and we are weekly hosts for the next 10 weeks. It is absolutely a privilege to be here. Now, as you know, our aim is to build stronger and healthier communities, and thus, every single week of this webinar series, we'll be giving you impactful tips and information about how to have a healthier lifestyle. Before we go on, let's begin saying a word of prayer. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, give you abundant thanks and praises for this opportunity to have to minister to others this wonderful health message. I'm asking whatever information is distributed this evening, allow it to change and impact lives. Allow differences to be made actively in everyone's lives. I ask you, the presenter, give her clarity of speech in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Now, speaking of healthier bodies, I heard exercise can send your immune system, for a loop and weaken it. That's why I always knew that exercise was torture for my body. That's why I'll just eat my salad and live my life to the fullest. I ain't stressing about things, not me and my poor body with exercise. What do you say, Sis?
Well, this is basically that exercising is not boost immune system. That's a little strange to me, but actually is that it's not true. Regular low impact exercises do wonders for your immune system.
Oh, okay. Now I understand a little bit now. So simple exercises like walking and push-ups in modest amounts is okay. Then even I can work with that.
Okay, it seems as if Anas is having some issues with his audio. But as it was saying, yes, exercising can actually do wonders for your immune system. And this is exactly what our program this evening is going to focus on. And we're going to have Dr. Maxwell present this topic, immunity. Originally from Guyana, Dr. Maxwell obtained her Bachelor's of Medicine and Bachelor's of Surgery from the University of Guyana School of Medicine in 2007. She moved to Barbados in December 2007 and started working at QEH January 2008. She also obtained a diploma in family medicine from UWI campus and is currently a registrar at Cancer Treatment Department of the UWI, and she still plans to specialize in nuclear medicine.
Now talk about driven. Besides being a member of the Barbados ASO of Palliative Care, she's also the wife of Dr. Luxburg Maxwell and a mother of two lovely girls, 10 and 4 years old. She also serves as a member of the Bridgetown Seventh-Day Adventist Primary School Board, a health and temperance leader, a religious liberty leader, and a Master Guide Director of the Maranatha Seventh-Day Adventist Church. Now, her personal mission in life is to know Christ and to make him known.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for that introduction.
Righteousness and all these things.
And thank you for inviting me. And as you heard tonight, we're going to be talking about your immune system. And I've entitled our discussion tonight, Fight Strong, because we do recognize that we're in a health battle, but there are things that we can do to keep us strong and to fight strong. Now, the objectives of tonight's presentation, there are three short objectives. One is to have a basic understanding of the immune system and how it works. Secondly, to learn the general conditions which result in suppression of the immune system. And thirdly, to discuss how New Start strengthens our immune system. Now, just to give you an overview, you don't have to try to read this, but our immune system is made up of several different organs, starting with the largest organ in the body, which is the skin, and all the different tissues that you come into contact when you first are touched. We call those mucous membranes, like the lining of our lips, our eyes, our nails. And this is the first barrier, the first line of defense for the human body. Then there's some small organs. We have what is called the thymus, the tonsils, the spleen, and all of these bodies which produce different cells that we use in the immune response, lymph nodes as well, and the bone marrow. Now, how does this all work? There's several different types of cells. You don't have to try to remember their names, but they have different missions in this immune response. One is to devour the B cells, devour the invaders, and they launch the initial attack by the immune system. And then we have the killer cells. They coordinate the whole attack and they try to recruit more immune cells as well. There's another type of cells. They put tags on the invaders so that the antibodies know that these are the cells that they ought to attack, and then they destroy them. We have some macrophages in medical school. We used to remember this one because it has like teeth-like features around it, and this one comes to devour and to take care of all of the invaders. This one is one of the key participants in the entire immune response. And the memory cell, this is very, very important. They destroy the infected body cells before the virus can get a chance to multiply. And then the helper cells, these make preparation for the next time the human body becomes exposed to these antigens again. Now, this is just a quick example. Let's say, for example, something that is harmful comes into contact with your body. You get a little nail stick or some twig sticks in the finger. All of these cells kick into action. There's a recruitment phase, and one triggers the next, and then they rush to the site. And you see this site was infected before, and they cause swelling and redness, warmth and pain, and this is all part of the inflammatory response. And this tells us that your immune system is working the way it should. So even though you're feeling pain, you might get a bit of fever, this is a good thing. We like to see when you are having this immune response. Now, some persons have a compromised immune system more than others. Those who are at the extremes of age, like the very young, babies who are now born, and the elderly. Just by virtue of their ages, they have a weakened immune system. In other words, their immune system is not as strong as the average middle-aged person. Also, ladies who are pregnant, and this is very necessary. This is just one of the wonderful ways God made us so that the woman's body and the immune system will not recognize the fetus as a foreign body, which it is. If the immune system were not suppressed during this pregnancy phase, then the immune system will fight against the baby to expel the fetus from the body, and we don't want that. So from the time the pregnancy hormone starts to get above a certain level, that triggers certain reactions that tell the immune system to downregulate. And that's why pregnant women are at an increased risk of picking up a cold, a cough, a bit of gastro or so on, because your body, the immune system is suppressed for the duration of pregnancy just to take care of that baby that is trying to grow and develop inside of us. Malnutrition, and this is very important. Persons who are not getting adequate nutrition, who are underweight, and who are getting too much of a particular nutritive agent, they are also at a very high risk for immune susceptible disorders, because the immune system needs food, it needs adequate nutrition to fight off diseases. And I deliberately put obesity separate from malnutrition because yes, obesity is what we call overnutrition, when you're eating too much, and we want to make the point that it is just as bad as not getting enough to eat. However, it is now recognized as a medical condition all on its own because it is so serious and it really makes every condition harder to treat. It is something that is very, very life-threatening. Obesity, it stands by itself now. Prolonged steroid use. Now, people who have certain conditions like uncontrolled asthma, or lupus, for example, who have to take steroids every day for years, those persons would have a weakened immune system because of the way steroids work. Now, diabetes as well, and that is because the diabetes, having the high blood sugar levels and the pancreas not functioning as it should, normally cause the immune system and the cells of the immune system not to work properly in something called sick leukocyte syndrome, which we went through before. Cancer as well attacks the immune system and causes persons to be susceptible to infections and other conditions as well. And HIV/AIDS, which is the one that most people know about, which is a sexually transmitted infection mostly, but it spreads from fluid contact, and it could be spread by blood, semen, and those sort of medium. And that is one thing that renders the immune system weakened, even if it is well controlled at the time. Tonight, we're going to be introduced to 8 doctors, 8 ways, 8 remedies to strengthen your immune system. If you have a weak immune system, these can make it strong. If you are at risk of developing certain conditions, you should really pay attention to these 8 keys, these 8 doctors, and this would help us. And we always like to tell persons, doing New Start doesn't mean that you may not need to take additional medication, maybe for your high blood pressure, your diabetes, or even cancer. But it does mean that you will respond better to the treatment if you're offered treatment, and it does mean you will require a lot less. For example, persons with high blood pressure, if they live according to New Start, they might be able to just control it with diet alone, or their doctor might choose to give them just 1 tablet, and then they can gradually wean off of it as they start to adapt these principles. But somebody who's not living according to these principles may need to take, some people are taking 8 medications 3 different times a day and all of that. New Start decreases the amount of medication, additional medication we will need to control conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes. Now let's look at strengthening our immunity through the food and nutrition. Now, science has shown that by maintaining a well-balanced diet, we're able to fight off infections, to reduce the impact of the infections, the symptoms associated with the infections, and we're able to get fewer infections in our lifespan. So someone who is well nourished, eating well, is less likely to pick up infections and be very sick because of it, as compared with someone who's not eating very well. Now, when we talk about New Start, we normally advocate a low protein, low sugar, high fiber diet, and that is very important. High protein is associated with accumulation of fat in the cells. It can cause damage to the kidneys, which is very, very serious, and high rates of cancer, and increased general risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, poor circulation, high cholesterol as well. These are things that are associated with lots of meat eating, and it's very important because they can damage the kidneys. And if you already have, let's say, diabetes, you're already at risk of damaging the kidneys, and the kidneys function to take waste out of the body. So if the kidneys are damaged, then waste tends to build up in the body, and that waste can slowly poison the body and cause the heart to stop and things like that. So it's very important that we drop the amount of protein that we're using. Now, these are some other studies that were done, and it showed that persons who are moderate protein eaters are 34% increased risk of dying, and 74%, that risk is 74% in persons who are high protein eaters. And we see the risk of cancer is 4 times greater in persons who use lots of protein. Note well, this study was done with animal protein. So what can you eat? As I said before, a low protein, high fiber diet is what is recommended. And the protein that we do eat, there are many plant sources that we can get this protein from. Going on to exercise. This is the second doctor in New Start. And exercise does very well to strengthen our immune system as well. And it is recommended that instead of doing strenuous exercises, some people exercise 3 to 4 days a week. It is now advocated that every single day we do some kind of moderate intensity exercise. And this helps us to function better, helps the immune system to respond better to any insults. And it is very important that we keep moving every day throughout the entire day, as much as we could, to keep active and keep this circulation going very well. And this will also help in our breathing and the response to infections and insults when they come our way. Now, it's also good to exercise outdoors, and you will know in New Start, there are other things we talk about like fresh air and sunlight, and those you can combine those with exercise when we go outdoors. And it is really, I know during the COVID-19 lockdown, we might not have been able to go outdoors, but it is really beneficial as much as we can to try to get out, because even just the stimulation from looking around, hearing the different sounds of nature, seeing the different colors, objects passing you and all of that, that stimulation does a lot to improve our mood, our circulation, and strengthen the immune system as well. Now, water. We cannot get enough water. And the thing with water, a lot of times when we talk about water, we normally make a point about saying drink 8 glasses a day. But I want to make sure that we understand today that water is good inside and out. It's not only drinking the water, but it's also having a good shower and what is called hydrotherapy. There are many different things we can do with water, soaking our feet in the water, having water applied to different parts of our body, and having a good shower or soaking in a bath. That is very therapeutic, and it's shown to have medical benefits, including stimulating the immune system. And I know lots of us like to have warm water baths, but you can see that there's benefit from having cold water showers as well. Very, very beneficial, including to our immune system. Now, in terms of drinking water, this does boost the immune system. And I don't like to tell people 8 glasses of water is good enough for you, because based on your environment, whether you're in the hot sun or air conditioned, and your activity, if you're very active or sitting down, the amount of water that you require is going to vary. So I tell persons when the urine is clear just like water, then you know that you're using enough water. Now, sunlight. Sunlight does everything that we need it to do, and we're so blessed in this part of the world to have access to sunlight throughout the entire year. Because where we are in terms of proximity to the equator, we need to make sure that we don't get the midday sun, because that's very dangerous for us. It can cause skin cancer. But the morning sun and the evening sun is very beneficial. It gives us the natural vitamin D, which helps us promote immunity. And many of our patients in the cancer treatment department, for example, we give vitamin D tablets too, because it's so important to get in the vitamin D. But we would do well if we would just make sure we get our natural vitamin D from the sunlight every single day. The studies are actually recommending that we get sunlight about 3 times a day in about 15-minute portions, about 3 times a day. If we could expose ourselves to the sunlight and make sure we absorb it nice on our hands, our forehead, our feet, and absorb the vitamin D to help the immune system function better. A lot of the cells in the immune system rely on vitamin D and are strengthened by vitamin D. So sunlight is something that we really need to take advantage of when we want to talk about strengthening our immune system. Now in New Start, there's something called temperance, which refers to the moderate use of that which is good and staying away from things that are bad. Now, it is very important to know that tobacco products, for example, and all of the drugs, including marijuana, heroin, cocaine, caffeine, all of these drugs bind to receptors on the cells of the immune system, which would be used otherwise to attack foreign bodies entering our body. So if you have these drugs in your system, tobacco products, cocaine, caffeine, anything like that, your immune system is going to be slowed down, because all these nice cells that we met in the beginning that are supposed to bind to these foreign bodies cannot do their work. And so that's something, so just by virtue of having these products in your system, even if you don't have diabetes, cancer, anything like that, your immune system is rendered suppressed. And it's very important to know, and based on what the product is, how long you've been exposed to it, and how much you've been taking, it may take longer to get out of your system after you would have used it. I was interested to find out that the ink used in tattooing is actually recognized by the immune cells as a foreign body. And those macrophages that we met with the teeth-like outside, those cells eat up the tattoo ink, because they recognize it as a foreign body, and it actually mounts and launches an immune response. So that is something you might not recognize when persons get a tattoo. It is actually something that is attacking the immune system and causes that immune response. Depending on how much ink, how big the tattoo is and all of that, it might cause the immune response to be even greater. And the person can actually react as though as somebody who's getting a viral infection, who's getting gastroenteritis or something like that, because of the immune response that is launched. And from repeated exposure to this dye, to this ink, it can actually cause the immune system to be suppressed over a period of time. So this is something very important to note about the ink that is used in tattoos. Now, when we say temperance, remember I talked about avoiding certain things, and we said in New Start as well, we try to use less sugar, less salt. The pictures that you're seeing with the donuts, this is a big no-no if we're trying to eat healthy, if we're trying to reduce our sugar intake. Yes, you need sugar, and I always tell patients you don't need a zero sugar diet, you need a low sugar diet, because sugar helps to give us energy as well. But it should be the healthy sugars that come in our fruits and different things that will break down. A lot of the whole wheat products will break down to give us the correct sugar that we need. So the additional sugars, like adding sugar to your tea and all of that, that is what you need to avoid. Also, the salt shakers need to come off of the table. Raw salt is a big no-no. So we don't put salt on chips. We don't put salt on avocado. We don't use salted nuts. We try to we don't use salt on eggs. If you're eating eggs, we try to avoid raw salt at all costs. Okay. Now, we're saying that we're using things that are good for us in moderation as well. And I just have to mention bananas, because I don't know about you, but I love bananas. They tell me a portion of banana is just sometimes half of the banana based on the size. I don't know how many of us could eat half a banana, because usually you like to go 2 and 3. You know, bananas is a Cambridge thing. I like to say we love bananas. My children love bananas. But this is one of the foods we really cannot afford to use excess of. It is rich in many nutrients, and it has a high nutritional value. But you see at the very top, potassium. It has 358 milligrams of potassium in the average serving of bananas. And that is something that can stop the heart. A lot of times when we have patients with heart disease or kidney disease, we need to put them on a low potassium diet, because that is one of the waste products that builds up in the body when the kidneys are not working well. And bananas are very, very rich in potassium. So as we seek to use the things that are good for us, let us remember we have to use them in moderation as well. Now, fresh air really does support the immune system. And it's very important to know that we can have fresh air just by opening our windows, using less air condition. Fortunately, again, in this part of the world, we can still open our windows all year round. And even if we have a storm, even if we have, you know, bad weather, as we like to call it, at least open the doors in the home from room to room, so that there can still be a flow of air throughout the home. And as soon as possible, try to open windows so that additional air can come in. Fans and those things can only circulate the amount of air that is in a room at a given time. So if there's no circulation, no fresh air coming in, putting on the fan, it's just going to circulate a lot of hot air, which is not good for us. So we need to, all of the carbon dioxide that we're breathing out, we need to make sure that we get it out of the immediate environment and try to keep the fresh air so we can breathe in the oxygen that we need for the immune cells to function properly. And getting a deep breath in, holding it as long as possible, helps to make sure the air goes down to the bottom of the lungs and pushes out all of the bad air. And if we get a good circulation of fresh air in the lungs, and that fresh air in the lungs is absorbed in the bloodstream and taken to all of the cells, including the immune cells. So fresh air ensures that we get good circulation and that the immune cells are being oxygenated very well to function even better. Now, sleep. I'm very happy to talk about sleep because I need some sleep. But sleep is something, rest, as we call it in New Start. When we talk about rest in New Start, we're not only talking about sleep though, we're talking about relaxation. It is very important for us, yes, to be having adequate sleep. We need to have, well, you would have heard 8 hours for the average individual. Of course, it varies with age. Young babies and elderly can get away sometimes with just 6 hours sleep, and that is all that they need. But the thing about sleep is that when we have sleep, it should be effective. So the lights in the room should be off, the radio should be off, the phone should not be beeping. It's important because lights being on kind of trick the body into thinking that it's still day, and the body does not shut down. And it is very important that that happens, because in the second and third phases of sleep is when the immune cells get to repair themselves and multiply. All right, so if you're missing that phase of sleep, that second phase of sleep, your immune system is not resting. And some of the things that affect our resting when we actually lie down and close our eyes include our physical activity. If we would have done some strenuous activity in the day, we would find you sleep a lot better. So when patients tell me they're not sleeping well, the first thing I offer them is to go for a walk in the afternoon, late afternoon, just before bedtime, and you will see that alone would improve your sleep. Also, not eating just before bedtime, because even though you're lying down and your eyes are closed, your stomach and the bowels and everything, they're still churning the food and they're still working to digest that food, and your body is not resting. So that those activities signal to the immune system that you're not resting. They're not going to repair and rebuild and multiply as they should in that second phase of sleep. As you would have heard for decades now, going to bed, getting 2 hours before midnight and 2 hours after midnight, it really adds to the quality of the sleep as well. So trying to get in bed by 10 o'clock, obviously based on your routine and your schedule, would be advisable. As I said, when we're talking about rest in New Start, is not only sleep, but it's very, very, very important to plan relaxation, plan me time, plan downtime, family time, plan time when we will actually be doing nothing strenuous, not too engaged, nothing that would be taxing. If looking at a news stresses you out, then this is not what you should be doing during this relaxation time. Even if you need to look at cartoons, maybe just sitting on the patio and looking at the children passing or riding the cycle up and down or something that relaxes you. And I like to tell people, try to plan at least an hour in the middle of your day when you don't think you have the time to actually do these activities, when you just sit down and look out, you turn off the phone for a period of time and things like that, just to help you relax, because this helps the immune system to be strengthened. Stress is really, really a killer, and that's a different presentation, because stress attacks the body on so many different levels that prevents the immune system from functioning as it should. And this was actually a study that was done that showed persons had an improved functioning of their immune system by 28% when they were subjected to this Galileo therapy, which force them to lie down for a long period of time. So sometimes we need to there's benefit to giving yourself, maybe just a weekend when you do nothing, when you just lie down, or a day in the middle of the week, or sometime when you just relax. That is beneficial for our immune system. Now, in New Start, the final T in New Start refers to trusting in God. And it is very important. I found it interesting that non-Seventh-Day Adventists and non-Christian studies actually showed us the benefit of having a very high spiritual life, being very religious. This actually spoke about being religious and having a good relationship with God. And incidentally, if you have questions, feel free to place them in the chat so that the host can feed them afterwards. But this was very interesting. I found that persons who are religious, have a spiritual relationship with God, were less likely, the cells of the immune system function better. The ones that are responsible for blocking immune responses were suppressed. They had better coping mechanisms. Even if they did contract certain infections, they responded better. They had a more favorable outcome in terms of coping. They required less treatment, and it's interesting to find this is something that we've been admonishing for years, and now science is proving it. It actually shows that it enhances our immune system. It promotes healing, which is very, very important. Healing and recovery, where we talk about tissue damage and diseases and medical conditions, is very important. The healing process can be slowed down by so many things, including stress. But just having a relationship with God, just going to church, having this hallelujah anyhow attitude promotes healing, decreases our stress hormones and the disease progression. If, for example, you have cancer, and you're not stressing, you're not, you're at peace, and you trust in God, the rate at which the cancer progresses slows down significantly by having this spiritual lifestyle. It gives hope and a sense of purpose. And this is very important, especially in our young people. It gives, we would have been doing certain studies and seeing certain information about young persons leaving the church and more susceptible to certain conditions. But having this spiritual lifestyle It gives a sense of purpose. You feel like you belong. You know that you have a work to do. You know that, even though you have this terminal diagnosis or whatever condition, you still are needed. You still have a place, and God is still in control. And this is very important to know. It correlates with physical health, our spiritual well-being. It's not something that is on the side or in addition to, but it very much it drives, I would say, our physical well-being also. Now, all of these doctors that we would have gone through, the 8 doctors, all of them have been found in persons. These are part of the lifestyle for persons who are living across the world in what are called blue zones. And those are the zones where the average age, the average lifespan is above 100 years old. So persons are living to be over 100 without any cancer, high blood pressure, and all of these conditions. And in the cases where they do, many of them don't need to be on medication because they're well controlled by the diet and the lifestyle. And these 8 conditions have been found to be in common in all those places. One of those places is Loma Linda, California, which is a Seventh-Day Adventist population. They're not all Seventh-Day Adventist populations, but they all have all of these things in common, including spiritual well-being. Now, as we close, we had some objectives. So going back to our objectives, we were able to see that the immune system is the body's defense mechanism, and it comprises from the largest organ in the human body, which is the skin, to very, very tiny cells, which are microscopic, which we cannot see, all involved in fighting any infection or any outside agent that may come towards the body. Also, certain conditions weaken our immune system, some that are preventable, like diabetes, and some are not, like aging. Now, the 8 natural remedies are nutrition, adequate low protein, high fiber diet, low sugar. Also exercise. We see that not only 3 to 4 hours a day, but we need to be doing this every single day, some amount of physical activity, not taking the elevators, but using the steps as much as possible, parking a bit farther from where you want to go and getting in some walking as much as possible, getting some physical activity in every step of the way. Using adequate water. We said water is good inside and out. So showers with cold water sometimes with warm water, and baths, as well as drinking enough water until the urine is clear. Okay, we said sunlight as well. Now in this part of the world, we need to take advantage of the early morning and the not so late in the evening sunlight, where we get about 15 minutes exposure on the skin, the head, the arms, the legs. Make sure we are absorbing that vitamin D to help to strengthen the immune system. And also not using things that are bad for us, the drugs, tobacco, marijuana, caffeine, and moderately using things, even the good things, the fruits and vegetables, we still cannot afford to overdo. Fresh air is important, getting out there, making sure we use as much natural air as possible, and also taking deep breaths, breathing properly with good posture and all of that to get in the adequate oxygen to circulate or the cells of the immune system. And the sunlight and exercise and fresh air, we can even get that in one time as we exercise outdoors, let's say in the morning or in the evening. Getting adequate rest, which is in New Start, relaxation and sleeping properly. And of course, trusting in God every step of the way, knowing that He is in control and He's able to take care of us, and He will do just that. Also, New Start strengthens our immune system and makes us less likely to become infected and more likely to combat infections. So if we do get these conditions that we're hoping not to get, our bodies respond better. We require less intervention, less treatments and all of that to overcome them. And New Start helps us to fight strong. This evening, I really wanted to use this word, theme, fight strong. Because we are in a fight, we are in a battle. It's a battle for everything from our minds right down to the small cells in our immune system. But New Start allows us to fight strong. And this ends our presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Maxwell.
Most welcome.
Now this time we will have our Q&A session. So guys, please post your questions into the chat and we will post those questions to Dr. Maxwell for you. Now we have the first question, and Maxwell, they're asking, could you remind us why we must avoid sprinkling salt on our fries and omelets?
Okay. Now, salt is good for us in that some salts have potassium, sodium, different types of salts which our body needs to function. The body needs the salt in the right proportions. When you do a blood test, one of the things we check for is to make sure the salt's in the right proportion. If not, then we have to give you additional salt, like slow K tablets, which are slow potassium tablets, or the salt tabs to take 2-3 times a day. So we don't want that. You need to use your salt. And you can get that by using salt, tips of salt in your food when you cook and so on. But the raw salt, the absorption is totally different when the salt is raw and it goes directly from the time it goes into your mouth, you would notice that you start to feel thirsty. Whenever we eat things like a packet of chips or anything like that, you will find that it starts to draw water. You start to feel thirsty. And as that goes straight to the kidneys, and the tubes that lead up to the kidneys, it causes the drawing of water as well. The raw salt is something that causes problems with the way our kidneys are able to function. The blood pressure goes up because the water content is going to go up rapidly as well, the water that it sucks in with it. So the blood pressure goes up. It also causes narrowing of the blood vessels when we have that high blood pressure as well. All right, so raw salt is something we really, really need to stay away from.
Okay then, all right, duly noted. So our next question is, how much fish in our diet is comfortable, like salmon or sardines? How much fish in our diet is comfortable?
Well, again, that is something that you need to be using portion sizes. Depending on your body surface area, the rest of protein that you're having in your diet in a 24-hour period, you would need to make sure that you don't go over the protein allocation for the time. And it's based on your height and weight that you work that out from person to person. However, the thing is that fish and any animal product, we should try not to eat every single day. Like if you're eating fish, if you're eating eggs and those things, it should not be more than like 2 times a week and so on, even if it's just a small portion. Normally, when you get a can of tuna, those are in portion sizes already. When you have a can of sardine, when they made that, they didn't cater for us sharing it like we do. Because I know we would open a can of tuna and everybody would eat from that. You would serve everybody from that one. But usually a can of tuna is a portion per person.
Okay then, all right, noted.
Okay, so our next question is, can issues pertaining to the immune system be reversed by diet? If so, what are the first practical steps a person can use? I'll repeat it again. Can issues pertaining to the immune system be reversed by diet? If so, what are the first practical steps a person can use?
Yes, there can be some issues pertaining to and I say some issues pertaining to the immune system can be reversed by diet. You need to, and I would say this one is not just nutrition, but with water as well. And we like to say, for example, diabetes. The first 3 letters in you start as diabetes reversal just by itself. Nutrition, the low protein, high fiber diet with exercise and water, that's diabetes reversal right there. But in terms of diet alone, using a lot of fiber, fruits with the skin on, vegetables, we wash them really good. We cook them with the skin on. We make sure we don't cook the vegetables too long to denature the enzymes in them, but they must still be crunchy at the time you're eating them. Lots of fruits and vegetables. Making sure we have about 5 to 7 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. Making sure you have a lot of water. That helps the fruits and vegetables, what they help to do is to give you a nice purge and a healthy purge, meaning that they clean out the intestine, because we're supposed to be having ideally bowel movements about 2 to 3 times a day based on our eating habits. So having the adequate fiber in our diet allows us to do that and getting rid of a lot of the waste products and toxins that should be coming out of our bodies. Having a lot of water in our diet also helps us soften the bowel movements as well. And that gives us a good clean out. The water improves the immune cells, the function, helps to make them nice and plump and robust. So by doing that alone is a start. Having the high fiber diet, the low protein, low sugar, high fiber diet, and water, that is a start.
Okay, thank you very much. And our next question is, what would you define as the right portion of salt?
just a tip of salt, and that is for those of us who cook, you just put a pinch, but for persons, that's a good question for persons who are aging, because as we age, the taste buds are less acute. So those are the persons who are susceptible to having putting a lot of salt and sugar in the diet, because they're trying to get the same taste in the food that they used to get 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But because these taste buds are aging as well, they're putting, and we really have to be patient and understanding, they're putting more sugar and more salt in the food to get the same, and the seasonings to get the same taste that they used to get. But it's something that they really need to discipline themselves and to consciously say that, this is the amount of sugar I should be using and not increasing it. Because if we go on taste alone, then the amount of portion that you should have is never going to be enough as you age. But that's a good question. Just how much salt? Just a pinch of salt. Just barely flavor the food. And if you're using seasonings that contain salt, then you don't need to use salt as well.
All right, noted. So this is another salt question. We apologize for that. What about using Himalayan salt?
Himalayan salt is good, and the Mediterranean sea salt, those are very good. Also the iodized salts, these are good. Those are excellent salts to cook with. Again, not to use raw.
Not raw salt.
Understand.
Okay.
So our next question comes up about regards to air. Now, the question goes, I work in a business place for several hours. We do not have air conditioning, right? The fact that the air is blowing from the fan is extremely hot. Does this mean that I have to get up, or they're asking how many intervals an hour should I get up and go outside to get fresh air and come back?
Right, so at least every half an hour. Every half an hour, that's recommended for the to prevent sitting disease. Every half an hour you should get up and walk around, and just make sure you go outside at that time. Take a deep breath in 1 or 2 times, and then you could go back in and sit down. But every half an hour is good. Outside of that, if you're having enough fresh air circulating in a place, the deep breathing exercises can be done every 3 hours.
Okay.
I have a question. Could you elaborate a bit on the sitting disease?
Our sitting disease is said to be present if a person sits for 6 or more hours in a 24-hour period.
Wow.
And that is, and that takes into consideration when we sit down to have breakfast, we sit on the toilet, we sit to drive or to be driven home, we sit in the cinema, we sit at work, wherever. If 6 or more hours, waking hours, if the hours that you're awake, 6 or more of those hours you sit for, then you have sitting disease. And that is associated with increased cardiovascular or heart damage and diseases that are associated with poor circulation and so on. And that is outside of exercise. So if you go to the gym for an hour a day, but 6 hours a day, you're sitting, the sitting nullifies the exercise that you do.
Oh, okay then. All right. So we have one more question. What temperature of water is best, cold or hot?
The person is bathing or drinking?
I am assuming this is drinking.
Okay.
But let's take the 2 questions, one for drinking, one for bathing.
All right, so we had the slide up with the bathing, and both cold and warm are good for bathing. That's why hydrotherapy is good. We see that cold water was best for stimulating certain cells of the immune system, but then there were a whole lot of benefits for bathing with cold water and then warm water. So it's suggested that, once or twice a week at least, when you go in the shower, you do the hot for as long as you can take it, then the cold, then the hot, then the cold, and so on. So you can do that, and that's hydrotherapy. And that helps with colds and infections and headaches and all of that. So both cold and warm water are good in terms of outside for hydrotherapy, depending on what you're trying to achieve. The idea is to just make sure you're bathing. All right, baths are very therapeutic, and a lot of people, especially when they're home for a whole day or when they're overseas in the cold temperatures, may not bathe in a day. All right, but it's very important to shower, to have a bath. That's very important. But in terms of drinking it now, the body uses water internally at a higher temperature. So when we drink cold water, the body and the heart has to work to bring that temperature up to the temperature that is best for the functioning of the body. So it's best to use room temperature water. If the problem is like, for example, air or bloating, or you haven't eaten in a long period of time and you're now going to eat for the first time, then it's best to use that water warm to get rid of that air at first, like ginger tea or anything like that. Or even if it's just the warm water by itself without anything, just to get rid of that air, to break the fast before you eat anything else. All right, but cold water is not recommended for drinking. It should be room temperature or just a little bit chilled, especially if the place is hot. It should just be a little bit chilled, but not cold water for drinking.
All right, duly noted. And we know we love our ice cold water, so this is something that we're definitely going to have to adjust to. Yeah, so I'm not seeing any more questions. So thank you so much, Dr. Maxwell, for that presentation.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, we hope that you all will have enjoyed today's session of Stronger Immunity, Healthier Community. And we are inviting you back again to our next webinar. This is on September 27th, which is next week, Sunday, from 6 to 7 p.m. So September 27th, from 6 to 7 p.m. This is next week, Sunday. And I am confident that it will be every bit as informative and as inspiring as this week's session was. I hope to see all of you there.
It's true, but just before you go, for the next 8 weeks, we'll be engaging in the New Start lessons, learning all we can about being healthier and answering questions to measure our practical knowledge. The lessons and question sheets will be sent to you in your individual emails, like a PDF and a Google Sheet link. So we cannot wait to start from next week.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm repeating it. We're starting again on next week from 6 p.m. on Sundays. And those of you who have any queries or are interested in asking any questions, you can email us at southernhealth.bb@gmail.com. southernhealth.bb@gmail.com.
Now remember to use this very same link that you have right now to get back into the web seminar next week. So don't lose this link, save it somewhere, and use this very same link to enter next week, Sunday.
That's right. Once again, I trust you would have enjoyed today's session. So tonight, I am encouraging you all to take that road to healthier living and stay tuned for our next session.
All right, good night, everyone, and live a healthier beyond the Zoom.